Hi everyone. I want to talk about one of my very, very favorite subjects, and that's the placebo response. It's such an enigma. It's such a puzzle. Science hasn't a clue what's really going on, and yet it's there, and it works. In fact, as everyone knows, you can't do a scientific study on drugs without comparing it to a placebo. Why is that? Because the very fact of giving somebody a non-active medicine is enough to trigger a healing response. And so they have to compare it to a drug. The fact is that even a drug has a placebo aspect to it, so I'm not sure how much it helps. So the placebo is remarkably strange. People think it's just a question of mind over matter. Doesn't work like that even. Even people that are totally and absolutely skeptics can still respond to a placebo and will come back to the doctor and say, you think we thought it was a placebo. We know it wasn't a placebo. We feel so much better. It was a placebo. And they still responded. So it's not just a question of mind over matter. There's something much deeper going on over here. So it's interesting because placebos obviously have something to do with a lot of things. It's not just the pill. It's the environment, obviously, that seems to make a difference. I mean, I wrote a paper on the placebo response, so there was some interesting information in that paper that I wrote. It was, for example, in hospitals, if you use a drug in a private hospital and use the same drug in a government hospital, you get much better results in the private hospital. Clearly, the environment does make a difference. So there are lots of things that seem to affect the placebo. The attitude of the doctor, the environment, the color of the pill can make a difference. So, and yet it's a non-active pill. So it's obviously working in a different kind of way to what drugs seem to work, which actually affect physiology, biochemistry. But a placebo doesn't work. I mean, it obviously has effects. It can make shifts in the body, but it's not working in a chemical way. It's working in a non-chemical way. It's working on some deep level that doctors can't understand. I mean, there was even some studies in which they tried to remove people that they thought would respond to placebos, people that they thought were really susceptible to that kind of persuasion. Still didn't make any difference. There still were lots of people that responded to the placebo. And one of the amazing things about the placebo is that it doesn't make any difference what the condition is. In all the studies where placebos are used, there will be some people, it doesn't make any difference what the condition is, what the disease is, will respond to a placebo. So placebos can heal anything and anyone at any time. That to me is such a puzzle, and I love it that there is this kind of mystery in medicine, and yet of course nobody likes to talk too much about it. Nobody wants to do too many studies in it because they don't want to highlight the placebo response. You know, we get told the story that we need drugs, we need something much stronger, and yet simple things can make a difference. So, and there's also, of course, the nocebo, which is the opposite of the placebo. The placebo is obviously something that makes people better. The nocebo is something which makes people worse. So what happens to you when you get a diagnosis of cancer, for example? Is that going to be a placebo effect or a nocebo? Obviously, people freak out when they get such a diagnosis. They freak out when doctors throw warnings at them about, you better take your medication, otherwise you're going to be, and don't stop taking your medication, otherwise you're going to get into trouble. Those can cause serious nocebo effects. People can even die. There have been reports of people even dying from warnings and, where they don't, where doctors kind of put a slant on something negative. And where people, your friends and everybody starts to warn you and tell you that it's not right what you're doing. When you think how how the placebo, which is nothing, can shift something so easily. That edge is such a sensitive edge where it works towards a placebo effect or a nocebo effect. So one has to be careful the way you speak to someone, not just with illnesses, but with anything that's going on in their life. Remember that just being kind, compassionate, giving somebody a hug, all that's placebo. And when I mean placebo, I mean something that works on a deep level. It's not just magic. Well, it's magic, but it's not just playing games here. It's the recognition of what it means to be human and how we function as a human being. So we need to take some care, because things happen not just biochemically, as it were. Things happen in a subjective way. And the trouble with science is that it's kind of removed the subjective. Only the objective world is real, and I've spoken about it very often. The fact is that our world is subjective. Everything is happening inside us. And the stuff that goes in it has. So if you think about, so what is going on with the placebo effect? Let's see if we can weave it open a little bit. Clearly there's some kind of intelligence that's been operating over here. And remember that the body is astonishingly complex. It's not just a simple thing of how do you stimulate healing in the body. Remember, drugs treat symptoms, they don't stimulate healing. Healing is something only the body has the intelligence to do. So how does the placebo work? Who is working with who is operating the placebo response? Who's pressing those buttons? It's not the thinking mind. It's not just, you can't just think yourself well. Everybody knows that. It doesn't work like that. There's something much deeper, a deeper intelligence that's operating. Where's that intelligence? Well, here's a simple example. When you learn to drive a car, you've got to learn what I call the maps. You've got to read the instructions, and you've got to have somebody that's going to help you to start the driving process. But once you've learned to drive, you put your thinking mind on the side and have a conversation with the person next to you in the car while you're busy driving. There's some kind of intelligence operating there that's much deeper than the thinking mind. You don't have to think about how to digest your food, how to keep the pH constant, the temperature constant. There's an intelligence operating there. So there's some way in which that intelligence is somehow activated to heal. And the medication acts as a symbol. Symbols are really, really important. We function with symbols all around us. We have all kinds of things in our house which make us feel good. Those are symbols. We don't put things in our house that don't make us feel good. We remove them. So there are things which symbols are really important. They operate very deep. And that pill that you're given by a doctor that you trust, even if you don't trust it, it'll still work because the placebo can be so powerful. So it seems to activate this intelligence inside us. Where is that intelligence? That intelligence, as I keep pointing out, is much deeper than chemistry. Chemistry operates at centimeters a second. That's much too slow. We need something that operates almost instantaneously, and that's at the level of energy information. That's who we are as a human being on a deep level. We are energy information, not biochemistry. And now that intelligence is operating at the level of probably information, consciousness, mind, somewhere deep in there that gets activated, and that sets the ball rolling for a healing response. So we need to recognize that we are not just a matter body. We are magical, and there's an intelligence deep inside us. So when you pray, for example, and I've spoken about praying before, but when you pray, who are you praying to? You could say you're praying to God, and that's okay. God is this intelligence too. Whatever that intelligence is, we give it all kinds of names. The deep consciousness, the God, we call it, the Tao in Chinese. There is some kind of intelligence that we need to respect. We need to honor, because it can start a healing process for us. Have a good day.